Okay, so good day to all of my students in Computer Programming 1. We do have our previous topic was programming fundamentals on the different value identifiers and Java literals that is used in Java programming. So we'll now discuss about data types and variables used in Java. So in Java programming language, there are 8 primitive data types. So when we say primitive data types, these are data types that is also present in different programming languages, not only in Java. So these are the 8 primitive data types we'll discuss one by one. So first is the logical boolean. So logical boolean is used for conditional statements and representation of values of the result of evaluation of conditional statements, which are basically true or false. So example of declaration of data types is boolean, and the keyword boolean or data type boolean, and then the name of the variable, which is result, equals to true or either false. So take note that Boolean data type can only accept 2 states or 2 values, which is true or false. Next is the textual data type. First variation of the textual data type is the car. So the car is basically a character data type. It only represents a single Unicode character, A, B, C, D, E, etc., and other special characters. So take note that the character literals are denoted or enclosed in single quotes. So every character literal must be enclosed in single quotes, and you store it in a car data type. So this is an example of a car literal. This is the letter A, and then the special character, which is tab /t. Let's try later when we do NetBeans if we can do /t, because there are versions in NetBeans that do not read /t or tab space. Okay, to represent special characters like single quotes or double quotes, so you need to use the escape character forward backslash. For example, to represent single quotes, so you just need to enclose the single quote, the what do you call this? The enclosed precede the single quote with a backslash and enclose it with the single quote representing a character. Same with the double quotes. Although string is not a primitive data type, it is a class. So we'll just introduce later in the string section about string. So string basically is a multi-character literal. So a string represents a data type that contains multiple characters, which I have mentioned earlier. It is not, however, a primitive data type. It is a class used in Java programming. So string literals, as we had mentioned in our previous video, it's enclosed in double quotes. So for example, string message equals to hello world. So take note, the entire string the hello world exclamation point is the entire string. Ito, from H to exclamation point is that is the entire string, which are multiple characters, and it must enclose in a double quotes. And this is the string class. Again, it's not a data type, the class. And we just use a variable, object variable, representing the string. And it is assigned to a location for the hello world values or string literal. So we do have in integral data types, the byte, short, int, and long. So that means these are numeric data types. So there are 3 forms of integral data types. We do have decimal, octal, or hexadecimal, and its variations are byte, short, int, and long. For decimal value, we have already discussed this in our previous lesson, that the decimal value 2, okay, example decimal value 2 represents within a 2 or 0 to 9 digits. And then octal is represented with a 0, and then hexadecimal value is represented by 0 and then x, preceded by a 0 and x. The default type of integral types is int. When you store or when you call or use an integral type, its default value is int. It will be implicitly casted into different types if it is more than its capacity. You can, however, define long with preceding it with L or appending L, letter L. However, we do not practice that anymore. So these are just the differences in terms of range and integer length of the different variations of integral data type. So for byte, it's 8 bits and its range is negative 2 raised to 7 to 2 raised to 7 minus 1. For short data types, it is 16 bits in integer length, negative 2 raised to the power 15 to 2 raised to the power 15 minus 1. For int, 32 bits, and then its range is negative 2 raised to the power 31 to 2 raised to the power 31 minus 1. Long is for its length is 64 bits, and its range is negative 2 raised to 63 to 2 raised to 63 minus 1. So the range is basically yung digits, number of digits that it can hold. It can hold in the data type. Okay. Always take note that the integral data type default value is int. So if you will use an integral data type, automatic siya na yung default data type niya is int. However, you can change that if you will implicitly cast or declare or instantiate it with other integral data types such as short, byte, or long. Okay, you can read if you want to. The next primitive data type is floating point. Floating point are numbers or numeric values that do have floating point values or the decimal values, if we say in our basic mathematics. So the variations of floating point data types are float and double, and then the default data type of floating point values or literals is double. So floating point literals includes either decimal point or one of the following. So you can add exponential value using raised capital letter or small letter e, float, uppercase or lowercase f, double, uppercase d or d. So these are examples of the floating point values. We do have 3.14, which is basically a small version of the value of pi. This is a large floating point value representing an exponential value, 6.02 times 10 raised to the power of 23. A simple float size value, 2.718. However, all of these examples, we don't usually practice on proceeding it with a or including mga letters such as E, F, and D. Okay, hindi natin siya masyado ginagamit. Okay? So no need to really use the letters. Okay? Yung yung actual lang na decimal value na is already accepted. So these are the differences for float and double. For float, it can hold 32 bits. The range is negative 2 raised to the power 31 to 2 raised to the power 31 minus 1. And for the double, 64 bits, and its range is negative 2 raised to the power 63 to 2 raised to the power 63 minus 1. Okay, so those are the different primitive data types. So we do have, we do have the Boolean, char, the integral data types which are byte, short, int, long, and the integral data types. Default data type is int, and double and float, which are floating point data types, and its default data type is double. We'll now proceed with variables. I have already introduced to you about variables in our previous discussion in algorithms and flowchart. So always remember, variables in mathematics is similar with variables in programming language. So variables is an item of data used to store the state of objects or used to assign values. And a variable must have data type and a name. So the data type, it indicates what type of value na pwede na i-hold. And then the name, it's the variable name that must follow rules for identifiers. So, di ba, we have coding guidelines in variable name. So, camel case siya. So, example for camel cases. So, let's say the variable camel case. So, let's say payroll period. Okay, so the variables, it must, if it's a multi-word variable, so you combine the two words and then the first character of the entire variable name is small letter, and then the next word in the multi-word variable is uppercase yung first letter, such as like this. Okay, so let's say length in days. Ayan. So 3 words siya, we combine it, sorry for the spelling, length in days. So again, pag variable names, take note, small case yung first letter. And then you combine it in a camel case, wherein the next word, yung first letter of the next word will be capital letters. Again, the variable must have or has a data type and name. So this is how you declare a variable. So you write the data type and then the name, and it could optional, pwede walang initial value or pwede din declaration lang. So you can actually declare it only or instantiate it with a value. So values enclosed in the angle brackets are required values. So dapat meron talagang data type and name, while the values in the square brackets are optional. As I've said, optional lang yung may initial value and variables. So let's have an example of declaring variables. So let's say int num1 or car choice or string name. Okay, please remember, string is a non-primitive data type. It's a class. So when class names must always have a uppercase on its first letter. Okay, so that is basically how you declare variables. Another example of declaring and initializing variables is like this. So let's say int age is equal to 18. So take note, when you declare or initialize a variable, you need to terminate it with a terminating symbol, which is the semicolon. If you don't have semicolon, it will issue an error. We do also have, let's say, string address, let's say current address, okay, let's say Davao City. So take note that string literals must be enclosed in double quotes. Yeah. Let's say double average. So let's say 90.19. Yeah. So those are examples of declaring or initializing variables. So later in our quizzes or in our what you call this exam, so it will include giving or identifying examples of declaring and initializing variables. So let's go back. If you do have questions, just message me on Facebook. So this is a sample program of declaring variables. Okay. Public static void main, and then so this is how you declare. So Boolean result. Okay, declare a data type with a variable name. option, and then the car data type. So car option, and option equals to C. Declare a data type with the variable name grade or double type and initialize to 0.0. And double grade is equal to 0.0. So that's how you declare initialize variables. So don't worry when we do in NetBeans. Mag-start na tayo ng NetBeans if we really have a full program na yung may compute, may process, may i-print. Yan. So just coding guidelines, it's always good to initialize your variables as you declare them. So pwede kayo mag-initialize ng default value niya, like say int is equal to 0, ganon. Or int num1 is equal to 0, and then you can later change it when there are processing that will happen in between those variables. Use descriptive names of your variables. However, it doesn't really matter na meron kayong A, B, C, D, but when you do actual programming in the real world, it would be better if your variable names are descriptive or kumbaga it represents what it will hold, what value it will hold. So like for example, if you want to have a variable that contains a grade of a student, so name it as a grade. Walang problema doon. So we can use random letters if you want to, but that is not helpful when you trace the entire code. So it would be better if you have descriptive names of your variables. So let's say another guideline, declare one variable per line of code. So like what we did here, one line is equivalent only for one variable. This is for readability purposes. Same like this, double exam is equal to 0, double quiz is equal to 10. So one line per, declare one variable per line of code. You can actually do this, but we do much prefer if you do it like this. One line is equivalent for one declaration or initialization of the variable. Okay, so we'll proceed with how to display variable data. Yan. So we do have two commands or statements. We do have the system.out.println and then system.out.print. What's the difference? We'll discuss later. This is an example program. Siguro mag-ano na tayo ng NetBeans nito after this. Okay, example, we do have a public static void mean int value equals to 10, char x, and then x is equal to a. So when you want to print or display the value of the variable, you use the name of the variable or the variable name, not the value itself, because you are referencing to the whatever the variable holds a value with. So dapat yung variable name, not the value itself, because if there are changes in the value variable, and then you print only 10, the value 10, so it will not change whatever you want to display. So dapat yung variable name talaga yung ilagay nyo dyan. And then system.out.println, the value of x is equal to, and then you enclose it with double quotes because that is just a message representing it with the value. So you can do it like this, na meron siyang message like the value of x. Then if you want to print the value of the actual value of x, so you concatenate it with the plus operator inside the println method or command, and then you write the value of the variable. So the output of this program is 10, and then the value of x is equals to a. So it just shows that after printing the value variable, the assigned value of the variable value is it will print a new line or next line. So that is the reason yung bakit print ln, because after printing the value of the variable value, which is 10, it will print a new line. So that's why yung the na word nasa next line na siya. Okay? So, system.out.println, it will append a new line at the end of the data output, which is enclosed in the parentheses. And then system.out.print does not print or append a new line. So, diretso lang siya. So, these are just differences. So, pag system.out.print, then hello, then system.out.print, then world, ano siya, it will just combine. Kasi hindi siya print ln. And then wala din siyang space, as you notice. Walang space dito. That's why the two words are combined, or two string in the output. And then program 2, system.out.println hello, and then system.out.println world. So hello and then world. Ayun. Meron na siyang new line. Next line na yung world in the output. So we have discussed about primitive variables, and we will discuss also reference variables. So primitive variables, we have discussed about this. This variable stores data in the actual memory location. So primitive variables uses primitive data types. So it stores data in the actual memory location of where the variable is. And reference variables, these are variables that stores the address in the memory location pointing to another memory location where the actual data is. And when you declare a variable of a certain class, you are actually declaring a reference variable to the object with that certain class. I will try to represent it with, ayaw niya mag-doodle. I'll try Microsoft Word. Sorry. Whiteboard. I'll try whiteboard. Okay, I will try this. Hindi lang ako sure. Okay. So let's say we do have int. Sorry for this. I don't like. If we do have int val. I don't have a graphics tablet, so please bear with me. So we do have int val and then 12. So int val is basically primitive variable. Val is primitive variable because its data type is a primitive data type, which is int. So what happens here is val. I hate this. Val. Just imagine that is val. It stores the actual value of the variable in a contiguous block of memory allocation. Ayan. So it actually stores the value 12. So that is primitive variables. Now for paano ba ito? Clear canvas. Now, for reference variable, let's say string. Ganda talaga. String. Taga ako matapos nito. String. String S na lang kasi. Just imagine na string str yun siya. Pero at this point, string S na lang. Bakit ba ako pinapahirapan ang sarili ko? Sorry for this. Okay, let's imagine that is hello. Okay, sorry. So string S or the variable S is a reference variable because its data type is a reference. It's a reference data type, which is basically a class. So pag class siya, or reference variable, the variable is referring kung saan yung location ng hello sa memory allocation. So it is just storing whatever the address. So it's just pointing kung saan sa memory allocation nakastore ang value na hello or the string literal na hello. So example, dito siya nakastore hello, assuming na hello yan siya. Ayan, hindi ko na alam anong ginagawa ko. Ayan, hello, dyan siya nakastore. So you don't need to worry about the address because these are in hexadecimal value or in unreadable formats. So again, pag reference variable, it is only referencing to the address where the actual location, ay dapat dito pala siya. Erase ko, erase. Erase ko muna ha. Erase. So it is referring to here. Ayan. So that's the difference. I'm just showing you the actual difference, and I'm really sorry. Wala akong graphics tablet, so I cannot really write well in this situation right now. Anyways, yun. That's the difference. So we do have this example, which I have just shown you earlier. Yan. So you can just read and analyze. Again, reference data type is only referencing to the memory address in the memory location kung saan nakalocate yung hello. So the int num is actually storing the actual data. Yung name, which is a reference variable, is storing the address kung saan nakastore yung value ng hello. Okay? Dito pala, no? Nag-effort pa ako kanina. Okay, so our next topic will be operators. So before we proceed with the operators, I'll just show to you in NetBeans. Ayan. Yes, I do have League of Legends. I do have Steam. So what the hell? Joke. Okay. Ayan. Sige, hintay lang natin, no? Mahilig naman tayo maghintay. Okay. Ayan. Okay. Close lang natin to kasi this was in my data structure class. So, this is the NetBeans. I think most of you, iba yung version, but it's actually the same na mga menus. So, again, di ba, in NetBeans, we will create a project first. Okay, this is the project. So, Java and then Java application. We will name the project, let's see, sample 2, because I do already have a sample 1. And then, just click finish. And then, what's good about NetBeans, it will automatically create a class declaration and then main method declaration of your code. Apply. Okay. Sorry. Change ko lang yung font. Okay. So, this is our package, which is the, when you say package, yung project folder. Okay. So, when we create a project in NetBeans, it has its main class, which is this, and you can put other classes within the project. That is for programming too na lang. Okay, so when you create a project, nakalocate siya dun sa, hinahinay ako, baka anong ma-open ko dito. It is located here in documents and then in NetBeans project. And then ito yung sample 2. Okay? Alright? So, di ba, ito yung sample 2 na ginawa natin here. Basically, this one. Okay. So, what you will need to submit to me, if there are machine problems, you will need to submit the sample 2. The entire folder. I'll just show it to you later. Okay. We'll be declaring, declare and initialize variables. What I'm doing here is the comment, the single line comment. So, int num1 is equal to 90, and then let's say string age na lang para somehow relevant. So int age is equal to 19, string name is equal to Mark. Okay, but you can actually do just declare and initialize, let's say string address, and then you can initialize it later. So you can do it like this. So Davao City. Ayan. So as you notice, pag wala siyang semicolon, it will issue an error before it will be run or before we will run the project. So ayan, naka siya, indicate na kulang yung semicolon. So again, you need to put semicolon. So you can do it like this, declare and initialize, or declare muna and then you will later initialize. Okay? And then we will print. Okay? System.out.print ln. Let's see. Gawin na lang natin. Student information. Okay. Kung wala siyang print ln, and then dito is gawin natin student name. So we will print the name of the student. So you put student name first on the what do you call this? On the yeah. Okay, on the sorry na mawala ako. On our text, in the string literal. Okay. So student name plus meron ako na remember. Hindi ko alam ano. So student name, and then that's the message, parang hindi siya prompt message. Parang kasi hindi maganda yung diretso lang name. At least meron siyang nakalagay na label. Label. Wala kayong label, kaya wag kayong mag-assume. Let's check. Sorry for that word. Okay, name. That is the label for our name. So, nasobraan ako ng emote. And student name. Ayan. And then plus, which is just to concatenate the value of the variable name. And then, let's just run muna natin. You can actually compile first. So, go to run and then compile the file. Or you can just F9. Pero gusto ko kasi dito. So, compile file. So, diba in our lesson in the introduction to Java, you will need to compile first before and then it will create bytecode. Ayan, na-create siya ng bytecode. And then it will, when you run the file, so, ayan, when you run the file, you are interpreting the file. Interpreting the bytecode rather. Okay? As you notice, kasi print yung nakalagay natin dito, wala siyang new line. Okay? Diba? Student information, then combined lang siya. So, depende na yun sa inyo what is needed or what is sa inyo. Okay. So, you can compile again and then run file again. Ayan. Student information. Ayan. Pwede naman diretso na run project. So when you run the project, it will call the main method, which is this the main class. So diretso na siya compile and diretso na din siya run. So you can just click this run project. Okay. So we'll just print the age and then the address. Student address and then address. Age. Sorry. Yeah, age and age year. So take note, variables are case sensitive. So when you are referring with an uppercase age, it will issue an error. Hindi niya daw makita yung symbol na age because we did not, yung uppercase na age na first character niya is uppercase kasi we did not use anything na ganun. So we only use a small first letter na age. Okay, so it will issue an error. Run project. Ayan. So this is the output. So this is how you declare initialize variables. This is how you display the values of the variables. So I will put a machine problem on your on Edmodo regarding variables and other programming fundamentals about data types. etc. So how you will submit it to me, I will just show it to you. So, pag tapos na kayo, na-compile nyo na, and then, ano nyo na, you will just compress the file into .zip or .rar, the entire NetBeans project. Okay, dito sa ano, 'di ba? You just locate the NetBeans project in the documents folder, and then you locate the actual folder, which is sample 2, 'di ba? Sample 2 yung package natin. So that is our project name, and that is also our project folder. So you just need to compress it in zip or in rar. Okay? Add nyo lang doon. And ito na yung isubmit nyo sa akin, yung naka-zip or naka-rar na file. Okay? Any questions? So you just ask questions in Edmodo or in Messenger, or you can text me. I provided my contact information. So that ends our part 2 of programming fundamentals, data types, and variables. So thank you for listening.